So, friends, today I have with us Miss Sujatha Patel. She's an old colleague of mine, and professional colleague and peer. She has started her independence practice in management consulting about a year ago, after she retired as the CHRO of a company called ThyssenKrupp as part of their regional headquarters in India. She was also previously the CHRO for the Larsen and Toubro Power Development and Transfer Transportation Infrastructure Division, and she has been well recognized in her field as an excellent HR professional. And it's been about a year since she started her consulting practice. Sujata, we have an audience of people, all of whom wish to take the plunge to set up their own management consulting businesses. One or two are already in the business, and a few are planning to set up as soon as this course is over in the next 1 year. And some of them maybe in the next 5 to 7 years, as in when they retire. Mostly all of them wish to grow their businesses, be successful and profitable. There are so many unknown challenges that lie ahead of us. And for that reason, we'd love to ask you to share some of your experiences and your opinions on independent consulting as compared to working in an organization in a managerial and a leadership position. So, Sujata, what is the reason for your starting consulting practice?
First, Aneeta, let me thank you for inviting me to have this conversation with you.
Yes.
And I wish the audience all the best, all the participants all the best. And as you rightly put it, it is indeed a big plunge and a different plunge that one would have to take when you talk about consulting. So, to answer your question very specifically, I have been working, for more than 3 decades. I was working in the corporate sector, very hardworking, having very tight deadlines, long working hours, etc. And in the process, I was falling in love with what I was doing. So there was a lot of work revolving around the human resource development and management, which came my way. And I was very interested in seeing how does this function impact the performance of employees and the performance of the organization. Where are those inflection points?
Yeah.
And that set me thinking about this profession as something that does not stay with you only till you are working and not later. So that is the reason why, though I retired in February last year, I didn't think I really hung up my boots. I felt that there was much more that I had to contribute with this knowledge which is there with me and the specialization is there with me. So which other vehicle is there, apart from consulting? Of course, there's teaching also, but somehow I thought consulting would give me a better look into how organizations are functioning and how my experience could help them do better.
Wow, that's great. So, you had different choices after retirement, but you chose to move into the consulting domain and make your mark here because you could use all the learnings from your working in industry and in real life. So within HR domain, there is a lot of options and there are a lot of things that people can do. Some are labor law consultants, some are talent acquisition specialists, and some specialize in training and coaching, and so many domains are possible. So, first of all, what is your practice domain, and how did you decide that this is the practice domain that I would like to specialize in?
So
This is my niche.
that is right. That is right. And you get this feeling even when you're working. I mean, what are the assignments that you would love to do and get your hands in, get very detail oriented about, and what are those things you do because it needs to be done? You may do it well, but still, given a chance or given a priority, you would prioritize that. Gives you a feeling of what really makes you tick, what really attracts you like a magnet. So I must say, Aneeta, that organization development was always an interesting topic. And if I extend that to training and development, because I believe training is a very important tool which can be used to enhance the effectiveness of OD. So, whether it is program management in terms of OD, actual conceptual constructs to think through and implement for OD, and you mentioned coaching also thrown in, because many of the players involved in implementing OD are your senior leaders. And if these senior leaders, you could have a one-to-one and have coaching conversations for their growth and in turn for the organization's growth, it forms, according to me, a very good combination.
Yeah.
So, since I'm a certified internal coach, both at Larsen and Toubro as well as in ThyssenKrupp, I decided that these two would be my areas which I would contribute to. Having said that, there has been an assignment, for example, in the past, which required some kind of input on systems related to HR, some kind of inputs related to how do you design appraisal systems, etc., which was okay. So I would bring my experience to the fore with a lot of concentration on OD and coaching.
Okay. So there's one niche in which you would really want to work in, but if something associated with that
Absolutely.
is within your skill set, you would also take that up.
Absolutely.
Great. So, considering that your practice is a little over 1 year old and it's been a pandemic year, there have been business challenges, relationship issues. What are some of the challenges that you have encountered so far, and what is the impact it's had on your motivation and your own, you know?
Yeah. That's a very, very interesting and reflective question. I really like that question because it makes me think through what has happened to me in the last 1 year. How do I feel? How do I feel today? How did I feel then? And to tell you the truth, and very frankly, I started off with a lot of excitement. And fortunately or unfortunately, the pandemic and my retirement came hand in hand, along with all the household chores that go along with it. So I found myself juggling the balls. How do I pursue this interest of mine, and how do I handle my personal work at the same time? And in the process, I realized that it is a challenge in the pandemic to get work. And if there is no context, how do you bring forth your own interests and give it, shape? So I decided that perhaps it would be a good idea to look and source for work amongst already established people who already have a pipeline of work.
Okay.
This being a pandemic year. So I reached out, and luckily for me, there was one of those people who said, okay, why don't we look at this? And so we started the work. I wasn't prepared at that point of time. And I'm really glad you're doing this program, because people can develop that kind of foresight, that there would be so many complexities. What are the complexities involved? In an organizational setup, you have direct reports, you have a nice, cushy job, you have a role, you have a recognized power. In a consulting space, it's not like that.
True.
You command that power only when you prove your expertise. And I've
True.
seen that happen. When people realize you're an expert and you know what you're saying, then they sit up and listen. Till then, you're just like anybody else.
True.
And even with those people with whom you're working within that consultancy framework, you have to use influence. It's not, there is nothing to do with a relationship of reporting. And that is the same with the client. That's one of the challenges I faced. And I learned it as I went along. Second is related to all those administrative tasks involved. When you just, think somebody will do it in office, your IT, your computer is not working, you can't log on to Zoom. You just call IT and they're there, but not so now. You have to solve your own problems. You have to become a little bit, not totally tech savvy. I can never be that, but at least partly tech savvy to know how to handle and how to circumvent these kind of issues. Third, I would say is the is minutes of the meeting, somebody would write it earlier. Things you didn't find interesting enough, following up for fixing a meeting, for example, someone would do it. Now you have to be the master of yourself, and you have to do every single thing and think through it. So you have to be a Wonder Woman or a Wonder Man from that aspect.
Yes.
And then in an organization, that's an important difference. You get your monthly salary. You don't say, okay, I've done this, and you don't have to prove it to someone and document it, and then you get your salary. No, at the end of the month, your salary is credited into your account. Over here, you have to be mindful of what are the milestones, how does a contract read, where do I have to do the invoicing, who has paid, who has not paid, whether you are collecting the money for someone else or for yourself, irrespective,
True. Very true.
right? And then the whole array of organizations that you are serving could be in different spaces, and you would be coming from a particular industry. Here it would be an array of industries. You need to be able to just blend with that, take your time, learn it, etc. So these are some of the challenges I have faced, Aneeta.
Very nice. I love the huge canvas that you have painted, and a lot of it, there is, we had a whole session where we talked about the joy of consulting. And I've had now 14 years as a consultant, and for me, it has been pure joy. But all these challenges have been there for me as well. There have been times when I piggybacked on other consultants and been a person who is tied up with other consultants to execute projects. There have been times when I have hired other consultants and given them work which we can then jointly execute. There has been times when you're not sure whether you're going to make your money at the end of the month or not. There are times when you've had to, literally go into the toilet to change the office toilet paper yourself.
Yes.
So there have been these kind of challenges which we have also encountered. But for me, it's always been the joy of, in the morning when I wake up, I feel motivated to go to work every day, which I'm not sure I did. I did for a long time in industry and in academics too. But after a point, it was like, do I really want to feel like going to work today or not? Okay, so it has been a wonderful response to my question. Um, I just want to ask you, is independent consulting something that you would recommend to everybody? Or are there some reasons why people should not consider independent consulting? It's not for everybody if it's not for you.
That's a very bold question. Very bold, because that has crossed my mind. I've been in self doubt somewhere during this 1 year journey. They have when the valleys have been very deep. Yeah, either the work has dried up, or because of the pandemic the client has stalled the work, and you've done so much of work and suddenly the whole thing has dried up. It sort of gives you the kind of pangs of emotion and the depth of, I wouldn't like to use the word depression, but something akin to that, where you really ask yourself, is this worth the while? And every time it's about coming, bouncing back. It's about bouncing back and to say, okay, it doesn't matter. I've learned something from this. So yes, you are right. It's not for everyone. For those who are faint-hearted, for those who are low on resilience, who have timings and structure in their lives, who's uh, for whom the the predictiveness of funding comes in consulting only, I think, after you're totally established and people come to you and you have more work than what you can ask for, and that is not there in a startup. Second is the structural aspect of power just goes away. So are you ready for that? Are you ready to network? If networking is not your cup of tea, eating crow when you don't even have to eat it, sometimes you just need to do that in order to let the other person settle down before he or she sees your point of view.
Yeah.
The patience, I think, is what rules the roost about this. And most importantly, do you have a growth mindset? If you have a growth mindset where you everything you approach with curiosity, then I think the sky is the limit. And I believe that what comes through fire has to be solid like a diamond. So we're all going through that fire, and you're in front of me. You must have done it yourself. So that's how people get very seasoned.
So, in my case, I had a little bit of an advantage because when I was in academics for 17 years, I was already doing a lot of consulting and training along with my teaching commitments. So when I started my own firm, I had enough client base and I had enough established income already coming from there, and I had good assignments already in my pocket when I started it. But I can understand for a newcomer, it would take time, and even then, it took me 3 years to get used to, the consulting world and independent consulting and life as an entrepreneur and a professional entrepreneur. So I would just say that 3 years is what it does take for people to really figure out. And at the end of about 3 years, quite a few tend to go back to salaried life if it is possible, and they would still like to, but a few like us are die hard and we would consider doing this for the rest of our lives.
As
So thank
always
you,
said.
Sujata. Any words of advice you'd like to give to our participants
I
here?
would just say hang in there. If that's your purpose, that's your passion, then the universe will work for you. You just have to hang in there and be patient and trust in yourself. That self confidence, never lose it. If you and each one of us has a storehouse of knowledge,
Yeah.
which people are waiting to tap and to benefit from. So why should the world lose out if you can give something to others? Otherwise it dies with you, and that's of no use, all this tacit knowledge that we have. So all the best.
And that's the joy of consulting, is because, and
Absolutely.
those are the intrinsic rewards which are not material in nature.
Not at all.
You
Yeah.
were able to make a difference, you were able to add value, and that you were able to be appreciated and acknowledged for that.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
that's the joy of consulting I talk about. Very
Yes.
powerful. So thank you, Sujata, uh,
Thank you, Aneeta.
sharing very candidly some of your experiences with our participants. I'm sure they will benefit from our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.